Welcome to the Felt Dyslexic Artist Interview. My name is Liz Buckridge. For me, as a dyslexic artist, other artists and creatives have always been my number one inspiration. In these interviews, we talk with dyslexic, no, in, the, in these interviews, we talk with artists and creatives who share their stories and gain insight into their process from inspiration to art tips, career building, and more. We're so lucky to listen to the wisdom of Joe Schweitzer today. I'm so excited to hear about his past and future projects and share insights on life as an artist. Hi.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for talking with us today. So I'm just going to jump right in. Describe the art you make. What medium do you primarily work in, and why do you choose that medium?
So the art that I make, I do a lot of woodworking. That's my passion. I really, I like making and building things that are physical products that you could, hand to somebody. I like using different variants of wood, and how they blend together and how you can take the colors of wood that you find naturally, like reds and yellows, and really design something that kind of melds well together in a singular piece of art that you look at and you're like, oh, man, that's actually pretty pretty. So that's what I like to do.
Do you work in any other medium?
I don't know if you would consider it art, but I do, I work digitally with websites, and I used to build websites full time as my career, and I always considered that art because you're taking something that you thought up in your head and trying to put it into a medium where people can actually see it. And yes, it's not a painting on a canvas, but it's kind of like a painting digitally that you could look at on your computer. And knowing that I wrote the code, I did the design, I did all that stuff, I always considered that art as well.
I do too. How did you get into making art? Can you tell us about your background and how you first became interested?
So two things, woodworking. I used to do woodworking when I was a kid with my grandfather. Growing up, he taught me a lot. And then when I got into my 20s and into my mid 30s, my other grandfather, when I moved away from North Carolina to Maryland, I did a lot of project-based building with him, like construction, that type of stuff, where it kind of taught me a little bit more about building and things. And I kind of morphed those two things together into the woodworking that I do today. For the website part, I always had a passion for computers. My mom got me a computer when I was 12 in 1992. It's a Pac Bell 386 that ran on like 12 megabytes of everything. And I ran that into the ground, took it apart, put it together, added things, completely manipulated that. And ever since then, I've always worked on computers. I always had a knack for them. And it just seemed natural when I got out of the Army to go into college. I wanted to do something creative that worked with computers, and I liked programming, but I didn't like all the math that was associated with it, so I landed on web design.
Wow. How did you get into your specific style? What themes or subjects inspire your work?
It's going to be a creative named David Picciuto. I really looked at a lot of his work, and I liked the things that he was putting out and the design style of stripes and matching colors, trying to make things look unique while also functional. And just knowing, again, just I put this together and made it. So it's a hard one too, because I don't really know. Yeah, I'm just gonna say David Picciuto and let's go with that. I couldn't really think of anything else. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Do you consider yourself neurodivergent or neurotypical?
I'm pretty neurotypical. I think I may have some neurodivergent tendencies, just like I can see a problem, from start to finish and kind of work it through, but I consider myself pretty neurotypical.
Have you faced any challenges or setbacks in your art career, and how did you overcome them?
COVID was a big setback. I really started to try to set up my woodworking, the business side of my woodworking, in late 2019, early 2020. And then COVID hit, and then, lockdowns, the availability of everything, really stymied any type of like business growth that I could do with my art and the things that I created. And that has really been, it's still to this day is a setback. I haven't been able to kind of that initial push that I did for the first 3 months, I would say I probably had 27, 28 different products that I kind of put out, and they were all gone within like a month and a half. And then since then, I've maybe, 5 or 6. So COVID really kind of slowed everything down. And then, as you get older, life shifts and, other things become more important, and you don't have as much time to focus on it. So.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Carolina, in a small town called Kernersville, right outside of Winston-Salem, the cigarette capital of North Carolina. So that's what we were famous for. They called it Camel City because of Camel cigarettes. But yeah, I spent most of my childhood living in North Carolina, and then going between there and Washington, D.C., where my mom lived. I grew up with my dad.
So you started to tell us about doing art when you were little. Can you tell us anything else about doing art when you were a little kid?
Yeah. So my grandfather, his name was Elmer Hutchins. We called him Pawpaw. Pawpaw, I spent a lot of my weekends with him when I was growing up, and every weekend we always had a project that we were going to work on. So he started me building birdhouses when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And we every summer built birdhouses. Haven't built one in a while, but it was something that we did. God, I don't know, for probably 2 or 3 years. It's like every time I was at his house, we were working on some type of birdhouse. He taught me how to work with a table saw, a scroll saw, a small bandsaw, all the kind of typical woodworking tools that you would use. The same tools that I have in the shop here that we're in today. And we yeah, just some of the stuff that we made was just ridiculous. Like I remember one time he made me a shotgun out of wood for some reason. I don't remember why, but it had a functioning port where you could put a shell into it, close it. It had a trigger that you could pull, and I mean, obviously nothing happened, but then you could eject the shell and throw it away and put a new one in. I don't know why he made it for me, but I clearly remember he made stuff like that. And then, we worked on picture frames together for my grandmother and things like that. So.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite colorway for your art? And is the colorway or palette the same or different as the colors in your house?
So I don't particularly have a single colorway that I stick to. I usually if I'm making it for somebody specific, one of my processes for that is to talk to them and see what they like. Specifically, I make a lot of stuff for my mom, and her favorite color is purple. So I know that if I'm going to make something for my mom, I'm going to use the color purple in it, and then I'm going to try to find complementary colors to that. A lot of people like the colors that are in black walnut. It's very unique and kind of standoffish colors because you can get dark reds and browns kind of mixed in with it. With that, you try to find other things. Personally, my two favorite woods to mix together are black walnut and what's called zebra wood, which is a yellow and black striped wood. It's very pronounced. It's very pretty when you put stain on it, and they complement each other very well. And yes, if I could afford it, I would make everything out of black walnut and zebra wood, but unfortunately, those are usually two of the more expensive woods to purchase. But I tend to stick to what people ask me. And as far as those colors influencing our house, no, not really. We do have a lot of the picture frames and stuff that we have up are done in black walnut. But that's, as I just said, more because my wife finds that to be very pretty. And she's like me, she likes the zebra wood, so we have a lot of zebra wood stuff kind of mixed into the things that I've made upstairs for us.
Love zebra wood too.
Yeah, it's so pretty. And then I actually found there's a red version of it too, so it's actually really good too. So yes.
So describe the space where you made your art. Where are we?
We are in my workshop, as it's called. It's called Joe's Workshop. This is I want to say this is iteration 4. So, my first iteration was kind of pieced together out of stuff that other people had given me at that time. So it was a combination of my grandfather in North Carolina's workshop and my godfather Tom in Maryland's workshop. I had most of my grandfather's stuff from when he passed away, and then my godfather, in an effort to clean out his house, donated me all of his old tools and things like that. So like drill press, bandsaw, things like that. And then after my dad passed away, with the small inheritance that he gave me, I upgraded to this version of the shop, which is where it's been pretty much since 2022. And last year, over Christmas, I changed this side of the shop a little bit just to give me a little bit more room on this side. But it's my as my wife says, my hiding place. It's like where I like to come and kind of just let loose. Having a bad day at work, or just need some time to myself. I come down here, put on some headphones, and either carve something or lay out another project to work on or something else to build. So.
Really, really cool here. How did your school system support your interest in art growing up?
Unfortunately, art was not a big thing in North Carolina schools, public schools. We did have wood shop in middle school, and then we had it in high school. So I took wood shop in the 7th and 8th grade in middle school, and then in high school I took it in 9th grade. But it was not like they didn't really have a art program. The art programs were more like just basic kind of. If you were, artistic, they would single you out, but more or less it was like, yep, you need an art class, here you go. So that's what it was like in our system.
How do you see your work evolving or changing in the future? What do you have planned?
I would like to integrate more stuff using 3D printing technology. I'm a computer guy. I'm a big computer nerd, so I always like the technology part. The other thing that I introduced into my crafting side was a laser cutter over Christmas. So that has been introduced. It's helped me make some things that have been really interesting. And it's also added elements that I can incorporate into existing things. So one of the tools that I have that I really like to use whenever I can use it, because it uses the design side as well, is a what's called a CNC machine, which is a computer controlled router where you design a product on your computer, you send it to the router, and then it will actually cut it out of a single piece of wood. Now, with that, I'm able to take it one step further and personalize it with a laser cutter. So it allows me to add a little bit more of a personal touch. Like my nephew has contacted me. He wants one of the things I make are these, I call them beer pucks. They're small beer openers that look like hockey pucks. He's ordered a bunch for his buddy's bachelor party here in like 3 months. And he asked me if I can engrave them. And I said, yes. So that's something nice that, I can do, and the extra feature that I can add. And then being able to take that and incorporate it into future elements would be really interesting.
That is very cool. Is making art an emotional process for you or a strategic process?
A little bit of both. So there are some things that have been emotional for me to make where I've had an emotional response to making it. Specifically, I made my grandfather's burial flag, Pawpaw, made his box. My godfather served in the Vietnam War, and he wanted a flag case and display made with all of his medals and everything like that. So I made him that, and it was emotional for me making it, but it was more or less for making it, knowing how much it was going to mean to him. And then being able to give something like that to him, and then seeing him have the response that he had. I mean, he cried like a little baby. It was pretty funny, but it's also very nice. So that type of stuff. And then there's a certain thing, like my dad passed away, like I said, a couple years ago, and my sister wants me to make his urn, and I still can't bring myself to do that yet. So I'm not emotionally ready to do that, but it's that those types of elements, yes, are emotional for me when it's making stuff.
How about the strategic part?
The strategic part is like, yeah, I need to make this so my wife will leave me alone. So, that type of strategic. So I don't get in trouble. It's that type of thing. That's why I've spent the last 3 weekends building a doghouse. So, yeah. But it is the fanciest doghouse that's ever been made. So,
Can you walk us through your creative process from idea to finished piece?
yep. So if I have an idea about something, I usually try to think about it, how I want to lay it out, how I want it to look as in its final stages, and then I brought it over. I actually have this book here that was my dad's, and I usually sketch out and design. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but sketch out and design what I'm trying to do, lay it out, take my measurements, and kind of functionally build it from there. If it's an element that I can use, like my CNC machine, something like that, the creative process starts on the computer. There's 3D design software that I can take and, remove pieces, add elements, lay it out, and structure it so that, what I'm designing on the computer, when I take it to the CNC machine, it actually comes out and looks exactly like what I laid out. And that has helped me take, instead of like just making a pin for somebody, I can make a pin and a wooden box out of the same wood that the pin is made out of and give to them as well. So it's kind of helped me step it up as well and give more unique elements instead of just a pin. I can give you a box that goes on. It's trying to think about it in its totality as a final product.
I love that. How do you combine the art you love to make and the art you sell?
Basically the same thing. My favorite thing to make is the Bluetooth speakers. I love doing it because it's a combination of different designs of woodworking. You get to use miter joints. You get to lay out and do the color palettes of the speaker box, and then on top of that, you get kind of that nerd engineering element where you're soldering up wires, building a battery, actually working on a circuit and putting it together, plugging it in, making sure you can get sound out of a Bluetooth thing. So because the speakers that I build, I build the inside, the box, the holder, but I also build the entire components of it. So there is no like Bluetooth speaker kit that I'm making it. I'm actually piecing this together. And so using all those different elements, it's really interesting. It's fun.
I highly recommend we have one. How do people find your art to purchase? You have a website? I guess you do have a website.
I do. Right now it's down because again, because of COVID, I couldn't the expense of it. So I have a Facebook page. I have business cards that I give out to people whenever I do things. I've gone to a few small crafting things and sold some stuff. I run hockey tournaments for the place I play at. I usually will bring one or two things there, and every once in a while somebody will buy there. Honestly, at this point in time, mostly it's my mom, buying stuff for me because she's always, as she says, she gets priority treatment, so she gets to go. But yeah, no, I have a Facebook page and I have an email address, and then I have my domain for my website, but it's not up right now.
All right. Well, we'll put that information in the show notes.
Yeah.
Can you share a recent project or a piece of work that you're particularly happy about?
Yes, I can. So if you would like me to show it to you, I can. So I where I play hockey at, bring it out here because this thing is 3 feet tall, is we do a tournament every 3 months called the Wicket Wrister Cup because it's New England, can't use ERs. So the original trophy that somebody had made for it was kind of shoddy and falling apart, and as a response to some things that were happening at work, I needed to kind of focus my energies onto something. So it spiraled out of control into a 3 foot tall hockey trophy that, if the world exploded tomorrow, this would probably still be floating out in space somewhere. But yeah, so this is actually a fun project that, like I said, spiraled, got to use a whole lot of different techniques in woodworking. But that was probably one of the funnest things I've built. But I say one of the proudest things I have, I'll grab it here too, And this can kind of show you a little bit is these little boxes here, which I don't know if you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, but
No.
it's a Dungeons and Dragons dice box. So you can actually hold all your dice and pencils and everything, and then gives you a little tray on the top. And this was 100% designed by me on my computer. And then we cut it out, and then I sanded it and built it. And then this was using the laser graving and technology, which I was talking about a little while ago. Something fun like that. Really interesting and cool.
You have carvings over there too.
Yes, I do these is for fun. Here, grab this is the last one that I did. So I also do small whittling carvings every once in a while. I normally don't sell these unless somebody like specifically asks ones, but nice little penguin and a
Wait,
top
now
hat.
that we're doing show and tell, do you have one of your speaker boxes around?
Yes, I do. Yeah, grab that too. So this is one of the small ones. Yeah, I'm gonna actually hand that to you for just a second, Liz, and I'll show you this. This is the second one that I actually made. Is this one right here, and I made this out of some old computer speakers that I had found. I think at Goodwill. So, and they're all battery, so you can take them out and they'll hook up, and you can play whatever. Set that right here.
Too cool. I think I'm gonna have to buy one of those boxes of Dungeons and Dragons things for the kids.
This one is actually my favorite. That's the one I've kept the longest. It's made out of black palm, which I had gotten somebody had given to me. I think at I don't even remember where I was, but cut that one up and kept it as one of my favorite ones.
Yeah,
So,
it's beautiful. How do you stay motivated as an artist?
It's hard sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. There has been months where I have not been able to bring myself to come in here and do anything. It's really the drive to get the project done. Is how I stay motivated. It's like, okay, I got to get this done. How can we make this better and go from there? But again, sometimes it is difficult to motivate myself to come in here and do something that I know I have to do. But just thinking about a lot of the times it's daring myself to see what it's going to look like when it's done. Is this going to actually turn out the way that I wanted it to, or is it going to turn out some crazy way that I wasn't expecting? Case in point, I'm helping a high school student right now do his senior projects. So he comes here, supposed to be once a weekend, but we had to have a talk about time management. His project's due next week, but he needs 2 more weeks of work on it. But we talked about it, laid it out, and the idea that we originally had, once we started building it, we found out was not going to work. And so, like now I'm actually very curious for him to come, and it's kind of motivating me to see how can we make this thing better? What can we do to do this thing better if we have to make it again? So like we were going based on his sketch. He wanted to make a bread box for his mom. And he had this pastry idea that I think kind of spiraled out of control in his head a little bit. But it was yeah.
That's cool. Are there any artists or creatives who have influenced or inspired your work? I think that you mentioned somebody earlier.
Yes. So when I first moved here in 2017, and was kind of deciding on what I wanted to get into, I really started digging through YouTube. I mean, I know it sounds like a cliche, but I mean, it's a great resource. You can find the right thing. This guy, I stumbled across this podcast, or this show at the time. It was called Make Something, and it's hosted by a guy named David Picciuto. Awesome guy. I started watching all of his videos. I even watched some of the weird videos that he put out during COVID, where him and his brother were eating hot dogs in the woods. Don't ask. But yeah, so him, and there's another guy named Bob Claggett who makes another show on YouTube called I Like to Make Stuff. He uses the science side, the engineering side, to kind of think through problems and how to, okay, this is what we're trying to make. How can we go from A to B to C all the way down to Z to complete the project? So I really liked him. Jimmy DiResta, really good woodworker, awesome creative guy. What is his name? I think it's Paul Jackman. From Jackman Works on YouTube as well. If you've ever seen any of his stuff, he's the guy who makes like the 15-foot tall screwdriver and chisel and shoe, but makes it all out of wood. He made a shoe Pez dispenser at one point out of wood. So, stuff like that. It's just seeing, obviously some of these guys went to school for this, but other guys, they just learned the same way I did by picking up some wood and going for it. 'Cause the gap from like the last time I built something with my grandfather to when I started doing it again was about 17 or 18 years. So, I remember techniques, but I didn't remember everything. So having these people on YouTube to kind of look up and see, and they showed their entire process from start to finish, that really helped me kind of get back into it, helped me along.
I love that. What advice would you give to an aspiring artist looking to pursue a career in the arts?
Be patient and take your time, I guess. It's not going to happen overnight, and I think we live in an instant gratification society sometimes, and people don't understand that it's not that, and it does take hard work, dedication, and time. And I'm not saying I'm a great woodworker or the greatest woodworker, but if you look at something that I made right when I first started to something I'm making now, 8 years later, you can a noticeable difference, and that's just I look at everything I make as practice. How can I take what I make that I just made and make it better for next time? With the speakers, and also how to improve the process. Like now I know whenever I have to like make a speaker, I know, okay, I have to do these 5 steps before I can even think about doing this. But when I go to this step, I already know I can shave it by going ahead and doing this and this at the same time. So yeah, practice and time, I think, is going to be the best thing I can tell you.
Love that. Okay. What is your favorite book, movie, song, podcast?
Okay. So, movie, I'm gonna give you 3 because I have a 3-way tie for my 3 favorite movies of all time. Number 1 is the original Ghostbusters with Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and Harold Ramis. Number 2 would be Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell, Kim Cattrall, just great cheesy 80s movie, John Carpenter movie. It's just, I don't know why it's one of my favorite movies, but it is. I just love it. And then the third movie, it is probably, I'd have to be honest with you, if I had to pick out of the 3 is my favorite movie, is called Army of Darkness, with one of the greatest actors and human beings alive, Bruce Campbell, in it. But that movie holds a very special place in my heart, and it always will. And I'd have to say, by far, it's my favorite movie of all time. If I had to pick up the 3 of my top 3. So, yeah.
What about books, songs, podcasts?
Books. I like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Podcasts. I like comedian podcasts like Bert Kreischer and those types of guys. Music. Big Dave Matthews Band fan, so I still am to this day. I was listening to him this morning. So, it's good, that type of music, stuff like that.
Is there a book that you recommend over and over again?
Book, not really. Movie, I would say Big Trouble in Little China, because most people haven't seen it, and when they do see it, there's so many great lines in that movie. So, yeah.
All right. What do you want to talk about that I didn't ask?
I don't know. I can't really think of anything. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't really think of
Did
anything.
we cover your life?
Pretty much. I mean, there's not much to it. You would hear some, weird stories about growing up in North Carolina. I could share those with you. I can tell you, I got a lot of who I am as a person growing up and spending that time in the shop with my grandfather. I definitely got my sense of humor from him. The 2 of us would torment each other nonstop, to the point that it became a problem to where my mom had to say that we couldn't be around each other sometimes. So yeah. So if you'd like to hear about that, I can tell you I got some funny stories about my grandfather that I always love to share. So
I love hearing about stories about when people were little kids.
Yeah. So, well, I'll give you I'll give you a taste of mine and my grandfather's sense of humor with each other. So we liked to pick on each other quite a bit, and we would make fun of each other all the time. And as I got older and became, a puberty teenager in the '90s, unfortunately my grandmother got cancer, and we were at Walter Reed, and we were walking down the hallway. It's kind of a good and bad story. We're walking down the hallway because him and I are walking to the dining facility to go get something to eat. And my grandmother's having chemo treatment upstairs, and we're talking. And as we're walking, there's a group of young nurses walking by, mid-20s. And again, I'm 13, 14 years old. It's embarrassing being a 13 and 14-year-old. And so we walk by this group of nurses, and my grandfather proceeds to lift his leg and let loose the loudest fart I think that's ever been heard on the planet. And then immediately say, "Joseph, that was disgusting." To which my response was to turn about as red as, I guess this right here. And, try to justify that it wasn't me while these nurses were laughing and walking down the hallway. And then as we get around the hallway, my grandfather just keeps cracking up, and because, to him, it was the funniest thing. As I got older into my 20s, it didn't stop. We would go to like Walmart together, and we would get separated or something, and he would have me paged, little Joey Schweitzer, will you please report to the customer service desk? Your grandfather's waiting for you. And the customer service people always got a kick out of it when they see me as, 22 years old or something walking up, and I'm yeah. So, but yeah, that's the type of environment that, and then like when we would do, build birdhouses or things like that, he would talk a lot of trash. So, and I got a good chunk of my personality and sense of humor from those experiences with him.
I love that. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. So
thanks for letting us into your shop today, and I felt inspired for sure. This is a really cool shop. I love it.
Well, thanks.
And much love. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay!